everybody, welcome to my Suburban Oasis. Today it's really cold outside. It's just under 10 degrees Fahrenheit, and so I'm going to take you on a garden tour, but it's going to be a little bit more about the structure that we can use in our garden to help keep it interesting throughout the year. All right, let's take a look. So when it's this cold outside, there's not much that's showing in the garden. And I'm just going to slowly pan around the yard so you can see what it looks like as a whole. And then I'm going to take you through and talk about some of the things that I do to be able to make the garden enjoyable to look at, even if I can't necessarily get outside and spend time in the garden. I will tell you that today there is a wind outside, and so I apologize in advance if you hear a lot of wind noise, and the snow is also fairly crunchy. So hopefully it won't be too distracting. So first I want to talk about this area. This is the area where we typically store our firewood. It looks pretty awful, doesn't it? So what we're going to do now is for Christmas, I got us a shed, and it's actually going to come out right to where the edge of these stones come. And it's going to give a little bit more structure to this area and make it look a lot more clean. And it has both a wood storage area as well as an area that I can store some of my empty pots and gardening things, as well as anything that we might need to for the pool. Right now, I would just say that we're almost through our wood. We will be through our wood definitely, I would think, by March. And so it's going to be a perfect time of year for us to start pulling things out of here and putting that in. And while the current wood is under an eave, that eave does not actually keep all of the moisture out of the wood, so I think this is going to be a much better solution for us overall. All right, now let's start walking through the garden. One of the things that I like to do to keep the garden interesting is to install lighting, and so I actually use solar lighting, and you can see here I have two, and it's actually really beautiful at night when they light up because they provide some fantastic ambiance for the garden. In addition, one that you cannot see, there is a spotlight that lights up the fountain. So the fountain right now, we have to keep it covered in the winter, and so it's not really much of a beautiful thing to look at. So that definitely provides more structure in the garden during the spring and summer and fall. So also one of the things that you can do to bring structure to your garden and interest in the winter is to include evergreens. So I typically plant a couple of Arborvitaes in pots during the year. And I like to do that because at the end of the summer, then I have something that I can plant into my yard that will also provide for some winter structure. So you'll see I have those throughout the landscape because not only does it provide structure, but it also provides some repetition that helps to show that the garden is cohesive. And it kind of looks like I planned to have it, but I don't know. You tell me what your thoughts are. One of the other things that does provide some winter structure are some of the hydrangeas and the flower bracts. If you leave them on, some people like to cut them off, but I like to leave them on because I do think that they bring a bit of beauty to the yard throughout the winter up until things start to bloom out, and then I will trim them off this spring. Over here I have a mugo pine. It grows rather slowly, so that's a fantastic way to bring structure to an area if you don't have a lot of space. It actually had an infestation of some caterpillars this year, which was really annoying. I can't remember. They were like maybe leaf miner. I can't remember exactly what they were. But it's a common pest for mugo pine, and I just sprayed them off and clipped them into pieces, and they died, and the bush is just fine. So other than that, I have not had any problems with it. I just planted these two golden mop cypress, false cypress, And as those grow in, I think those will provide a nice winter interest and a contrast to the green foliage of the Arborvitaes. I do have a couple other of those over here near the fountain as well. And those also provide a nice contrast with the fine foliage of the golden mophead false cypress and the boxwood, which is green but has a larger leaf. And then also, if you use urns or other large planters in your garden, those help to provide a structure as well. And you can put decor in them, anything that you like that will help to make them look pretty throughout the winter. So I just added some evergreen boughs on top of both of these, and as a result they look really nice, and they have some nice fluffy snow on top of them that makes them look pretty. Another plant that helps to provide a lot of structure in the winter garden is holly, because it is evergreen. And I garden in a zone 5B for those of you who are new to this channel. So it gets rather cold here. And so this is a winter evergreen holly. And it will continue to grow quite large and will provide a nice contrast up against the color of the fence. I also have a tendency to leave seed heads whenever I can. This is a sedum. It's not looking that great. You'll actually see I'm so try not to be too upset about this, but you can see here a rabbit, we have several resident rabbits, has decided to eat off most of the stems of my climbing rose. It did leave the main stem, but so I'm going to have to clean that up this spring and think about next winter protecting the base of it, because you can see it actually is staying quite green throughout the winter. So I really was surprised by that. I don't know if it will completely die off, but the fact that it is so cold today and it's still green is pretty amazing. So I'm pretty psyched about that, and hopefully it will grow back with some excellent vigor in the spring in the areas where the bunny ate it. But this is just an autumn joy sedum, and I have several of those in this bed, which you will see that I leave the seed heads on, so they kind of pop through. We got a lot of snow recently, and then we got some sunshine, which actually melted the snow that was piled up on the seed heads and looking so pretty. And of course the classic red twig dogwood here gives some excellent winter structure as well as color. I'm planning to soon come in and clean up some of the really old branches when I was being a little too lazy to actually come in there and prune, and so I took too long to get to them and they became rather thick. So I will have to go in there and clean those out soon. You could see some more Arborvitaes over here. And a couple of pears that I planted back over in this area are hardly standing out of the snow right now. You can see there's one over here, and then there's one that you can just barely hardly see peeking out over here. So as those grow larger throughout the years, those will provide some excellent greenery and help to hide some of the what I think is a really ugly chain link fence that I have, but I just don't have the money, or I'm not ready to replace that yet. There's also some beauty continuing with this azalea here, which I was shocked. I thought it would lose its leaves, but it didn't, so that's great. I hope that it holds on to its leaves until spring and it's ready to get its new growth. It's also good to look for trees and shrubs that have really interesting bark, and I'll show you a couple of those soon on our tour here. Here we have two boxwoods that are flanking the path, which is covered in snow, so you can't even hardly see that. But they really stand out in the middle of the snow and provide some color that otherwise would not be there. I haven't decided yet whether I'm going to prune those into globes or into more of a pyramidal type shape. Other structure in the garden includes things like seating areas. So I have this nice bench that I like to sit on in the summer or during warmer weather. And then I've hung some other metal bird cages over here for some winter and all season interest, really. I like to find cheap metal things on Facebook Marketplace or from neighbors or at thrift stores and use them to decorate my garden. And you can be a little picky or choosy, but another one that I have over here is just a piece of metal art that someone was getting rid of, and I was able to snatch that up for like $10 or something like that, and it just provides a little focal point in the winter garden next to the bird bath that is in front of it. And you can see I have one of my concrete statuaries is buried up to its neck in snow, and I did not get that one put away in time for winter. I guess I forgot about that one. So it's still there, but those are nice ways to provide winter interest as well. And then of course rhododendrons that stay green during the winter help to provide interest. There are some smaller ones that I planted this year that you can't see at this point because they are too little and they're not up above the snow. I think we have about 6 to 8 inches of snow right now. And again, another bird bath here. And then for viewing, I have some more evergreens. I have an Australian black pine and some other pine trees that I have planted down the back hill that as they grow will continue to provide winter interest throughout the years. Bird houses and bird feeders are also an excellent way to provide interest to your garden in the winter and pretty much all year, but they stand out a great deal better in the winter. And so my plan is to eventually continue to add additional bird houses onto this pole. So I just keep my eyes out for them when I see ones that I like and I find reasonable. I certainly enjoy the handmade ones. I think I got these at like antique fairs and things like that. There's another concrete garden statuary, which is actually a tree decoration that I hung on the tree. So you can certainly see him a lot better than you do during the year when there's leaves on the trees. A little hanging ornamentation. Iron is also an excellent material to use year-round in the garden, especially if you have cold gardens. And then I have some hangers here that I use for hanging baskets, which if you have the time and energy to do, hanging baskets can also be decorated similar to planted garden urns or pots to provide winter structure. So I never cleaned up this one, which will make it age more quickly, but it does look kind of interesting and provide a little interest for the eye. Quite a few more Arborvitaes. And then I like to plant echinacea around a lot and leave the seed heads for the birds. And they also look pretty with snow stacked up on top of them. They look like little buttons. You can see on this one, the birds have definitely started eating the seeds and will continue to do so. They'll be empty by the end of the winter. Some more Arborvitaes, and then other things that provide structure are trellises. So picking trellises that you find to be beautiful when nothing's growing on them in the winter, they definitely help to provide the eye with something to focus on and enjoy. For example, this row cover that I bought, while it's not doing anything functionally, for me, it looks pretty out here, and I like to see it because it makes me think about when the garden season starts again. You can also see some of my copper plant markers where I have 2 hydrangea cuttings growing, and they're so small that I was afraid I wouldn't see them in the spring, so I can see where those are. And then these 2 little teepee-like pieces of trellis that I just made out of bamboo stakes. And another garden bench back there. Virginia is a great plant. That's this right here, also called pig squeak. There's a number of different kinds of it now. And it's a semi-evergreen plant, as you can see. Provides great color in the fall and then sticks around for the winter. As well as foxglove. You can see up here the foxglove, when there's not snow covering it, is also green and stays green. You can see some of the irises starting to come up. Our rabbit is so hungry it's even eating the little iris tops. Stay away from my garden, rabbit. Go find Peter McGregor's garden. Another semi-evergreen plant is the geranium macrophylla. So you can see it there. I use it as a ground cover in a lot of areas where I have dry shade. And it serves as an excellent filler. Anything that has berries on it as well during the winter. Someone pointed out, and I would like to point out on this video, they pointed out to me in an earlier video I did about shrubs I planted that barberries can be invasive. So just want to remind folks to think about those kind of things before you plant them in your area. I'm still trying to decide whether I'm going to keep all of mine or if I'm going to pull some of them out. So this here is a sky pencil holly ilex, and it is evergreen, and I'm just loving it. I did plant one also over here that is dead, so I'm going to have to pull that out and see if I can get another one to try to grow there, because I really like the way that this is going to grow, and it's going to get rather tall. And when it does that, I think it's going to be great because I don't really have a lot of evergreen out in my front yard. You can see some of the hellebores, or some people call them hellebores. Here I've got quite a few of them out here in the front bed, and when the snow melts, they stay pretty much evergreen as well. They perk up a lot on sunny days when it's warmer out. Another sky pencil holly over here. Again, you'll notice that many of these shrubs are still fairly small because I planted the majority of them this year, and I'm just trying to build up the garden to increase some of the visual height in it. I'm here using rocks and a bird bath and a bench. You can see that that looks really pretty and provides winter interest. And then I have the lights, the solar lights, also on either side of the bench here. And then some azaleas in this bed that help to provide winter interest. I have some variegated liriope, some people call it lily turf, back here, and you can see the leftovers from the blooms that stick up. And this is a semi-evergreen. The rabbits do like it, but they haven't found this patch yet, I guess. I don't know. They haven't chewed them all off. They did in my backyard. And I have another pot with more of the boxwood. Looking forward to starting to shape that one this year. My boxwoods around the front light. Those are evergreen all year. I wish they stayed greener and didn't quit the brown tips, but it's just kind of part of the fact that we're on the edge of their hardiness zone because they're really hardy down to zone 5. And so they do get a little bit injured by the cold. And then I have another Ilex Sky Pencil Holly over here. So that's going to be super cool because it will help to balance out the other fruit tree that I have over here. Excuse me, not fruit tree. It's a non-fruiting, flowering crabapple. You can see we were building like an igloo snow fort the other day. We have so much snow. And then these pretty boxwoods, they're getting a little larger and starting to provide structure now after, I think it's been about 3 or 4 years. And don't they look pretty just dotting this pathway with the snow on top of them? I really like the way that looks. And you can leave grasses, ornamental grasses, because those continue to provide interest throughout the winter months as well. Let's see if we can get this to work here. With all the snow, it's hard to get through doors right now. And that brings us back to the backyard, where you can see that when the rocks get warmed by the sun, they're one of the first places that the snow melts off. So rock is definitely another way to bring interest to your garden in the winter, because it is one of the first things that will heat up and melt the snow. One of my favorite parts of winter garden structure this year happened to be the boxwoods that are behind me and the hollies that are behind me. I've really enjoyed seeing the color on them and the shape and form that they take in the snow. So I hope you enjoyed this video today. If you did, give me a thumbs up, hit the like button, subscribe to my channel if you enjoy it, and click the notification bell as well. That'll help you get notified anytime a new video comes out. Well, thanks again for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the tour. See you next time. Bye.